The truth occurs.
Hi everyone. I've done a lot of videos in the past where I said canola oil will kill you, vaccines will kill you, GMOs will kill you, this will kill you, that will kill you. But really the number one thing that will undermine your health on every level is not something that the government's going to put in your food or your water or your arm. It's stress. Here's an article at 20 effects of stress on your body, and as you'll see, it affects everything from your sleep, your heart, your cardiovascular system, your immune system, your hormones, your mood. It really affects everything. It makes you weaker and more susceptible and will basically wreck you. One person who studied stress a lot is Robert Sapolsky. Actually, what he does is he studies stress, and he studies it in baboons especially, because on some levels they're very much like humans. They're not, under stress of being eaten at any given time, and they're also very social. And well, what he found was that baboons that are stressed, they have hardening of the arteries. I mean, these baboons are not smoking, they're not drinking, and they're eating the same thing as all the other baboons, but they have hardened arteries, narrowing of the arteries, and they also have belly fat. And he found that this is related to stress. It's also related to social status. The lower you are on the totem pole, the more stress you have from being under other people. And in other studies, they found that this also applies to humans. I mean, I guess there's a lot of ways to be stressed, but that's one of them, just having a low social status, even if you're a baboon. Now, there's one thing I'd like to focus on regarding stress. Stress and belly fat. Now, this isn't a matter of vanity. This is really a matter of health. Belly fat is associated with certain specific health risks, but there is a relationship going back and forth between the stress and the belly fat. Stress-induced cortisol response and fat distribution in women. Well, they found here that the women that have more belly fat have a stronger response to stress. Now, is it because they have the belly fat that they have a stronger response, or is it because they have a stronger response that they carry more belly fat, or is it just something else? Well, their conclusion was, furthermore, differences in coping and appraisal may suggest that a particular psychological pattern might influence the reactivity of the adrenal cortical system to stress and subsequent fat distribution. So it could be that if you're pear-shaped rather than apple-shaped, because of the way you're coping with stress, you're managing your cortisol production better, and so then you're not going to get more fat around your waist because this is caused by high cortisol. Here's another article where they ask about the potential link between cortisol and visceral obesity. What they basically say here is that the level of cortisol concentration you have in your tissue are controlled by an enzyme that converts cortisone to cortisol, and this is found in fat tissue, especially visceral fat, which is the stuff inside. So it's like the more visceral fat you have, the more you're able to produce cortisol. And also the more cortisol you produce, the more visceral fat you're going to have. Higher levels in the visceral fat means more cortisol is being produced. Also, abdominal fat has 4 times the cortisol receptors compared to subcutaneous fat. So it says this may increase cortisol's fat accumulation and fat cell size enlarging effect. The cortisol can actually make fat cells mature and grow. It can make you produce more visceral fat, and then the visceral fat is more receptive to the cortisol. It can become like a runaway train because it's a back and forth relationship. And like I said before, there are a lot of negative effects from too much stress. Stress is related to cortisol, and the belly fat is sort of enhancing the stress's ability to get you. And then, of course, the more stress you have, the more belly fat you get. So how are you going to break this cycle? Well, here's something interesting. Mindfulness intervention for stress eating to reduce cortisol and abdominal fat among overweight and obese women. So what they did was they studied mindfulness training. They found that improvements in mindfulness chronic stress and cortisol awakening response were associated with the reductions in abdominal fat. So lower your stress and you'll also lower the belly fat. Lower the belly fat, you will lower your susceptibility to stress. So the belly fat does matter, and it's interesting that you can reduce it just by lowering the stress in your mind through mindfulness. Thanks for listening to me. Thanks for giving this video a thumbs up. Thanks for leaving your comments, and I'll see you next time.